Hi, this is Grace Power, and today I wanted to share about a book that I read quite a while ago, but it's called The 4-Hour Body by Timothy Ferriss. I did another book review on his first book, The 4-Hour Work Week, which completely changed the course of my life. So I had to read The 4-Hour Body once I heard about it because I liked his first book so much. The 4-Hour Body is a very thick book. It's almost like a textbook. He has a lot of information in there and a lot of different topics that he covers. So I'm just going to share a few of the topics that kind of stood out to me. And the first one was when he talked about prolotherapy, and he had some prolotherapy done. And I learned about prolotherapy really just by accident. I was looking to go to an osteopath because I'd gone to a chiropractor for a long time for my back, and it was never really healed from the pain and discomfort that I had. I would have, short-term relief sometimes, but never really a cure. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go to an osteopath and get like a different type of an adjustment because their adjustments are slightly different, and I'll see if that works. And I came across a lady that did prolotherapy, and so I started having treatments done and started getting great relief. I had constant back pain, pretty much. A lot of times in the morning I'd wake up and I wouldn't have pain, but by the end of the night, by the end of the day, I had, my back was just throbbing. And I also had kind of a slump, I slumped over, and when I would try to stand up straight and just hold my posture straight, I could only do it for maybe 15 minutes before my back would just be like burning and it would hurt, and I just have to slump back over just to feel some relief. And so I was in pretty bad shape and I was only in my 20s. So I was very thankful to have this prolotherapy done. And I was in such kind of bad shape, what I consider bad shape. Like my ligaments were so stretched out that she just injected everywhere, from my neck all the way down my back, my lower back, my hips. My hips got a lot of work because that's kind of like the base, your core. So she did a lot of work on my hips, even on the front part of my hips, like in my groin kind of area, shooting into those ligaments. And then started, every time I would go, I would just say, well, I kind of feel like a little bit of soreness here or here. So I got my shoulders treated, I got my elbows treated, wrists treated. I can't remember if I did my fingers, but I've jammed fingers in the past, so I'm sure that they could use a little prolotherapy. But basically anywhere there was a ligament, my knees, I was starting to have a little bit of arthritic sort of pain in my knees. Mainly I noticed it when I would fly in the airplane. Because you have to keep your knees kind of bent the whole time, unless I was like in an aisle that I could stretch out my legs. But if I was in the middle seat and had to keep my legs bent, my knees would just start throbbing, especially my right knee. So she treated that, and I no longer have that kind of pain. I had shin splints, so she treated those, and I still actually do have a little bit of mild shin splint, so I'd like to get more treatments, but it did help immensely. My ankles, I'd sprained ankles in the past, so she treated those. So pretty much, from the neck down, I had almost every ligament treated, and just had amazing results. It did take a couple of years to go through that many treatments, because I think I went like every month for a while, and then I kind of spaced it out every couple months. But got these treatments and just had amazing relief. Like I think one of the biggest things was going skiing with my uncle and my cousin. Before I had the treatments, going skiing, I think I was 21, and I went skiing on my honeymoon. And I went down one time down the slopes, and my back was just burning so much. It was just, I was having such a hard time. And I think I did one more run, and then that was it. Like I just couldn't do anymore. And then later on, I went skiing with Sean, and we went, and same thing. And actually he has kind of a sore back. So We were about the same level. Like we did one run. It was a really long run down in Loveland. And we got down to the bottom. We're like, let's go get some hot chocolate. Like our back was sore. Well, anyways, I went with my uncle and my cousin later on after having these treatments. I skied all day, no problem whatsoever, no pain. It gets to the end of the day and they're saying, yeah, the day shift's done. Now they're moving on to night shift. And I was like, man, I kind of want to stay for the night shift. Like I could have just kept going and going. And it was just a complete transformation. So I highly recommend Prolotherapy. I'm glad that Tim Ferriss talked about it in this book because a lot of people never hear about it. It's not recommended by a lot of doctors because it's not covered through insurance. So if you have like a health savings plan or just can afford to pay cash, I just highly recommend it. And sometimes you only need 2 or 3 treatments. I kind of went all out and had everything treated. But if you have like, let's say carpal tunnel or a specific, herniated disc or something going on in your back and you can just treat that one specific area, you might only need 2 or 3 treatments and you are cured. And so definitely check it out. Now, besides that in the book, he also talked about some different ways of working out. And I think that's where he kind of came up with the title of 4-Hour Body. He did some studies or tests or kind of looked at the different things, but found that a lot of times a great effective workout is just to do 1 rep, but just to do it at like the ultimate heaviest weight that you can possibly handle. And so just something to keep in mind. I would read the book to kind of understand where he's coming from on that, but that was really interesting. And I had heard about that from another friend of mine who does his workouts and then he just, instead of like, let's say doing a squat, and just kind of doing it normal pace, he does it super, super, super slow and it makes it extra hard. But then you only have to do like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 and you're good. You don't have to keep doing a bunch of squats, but you just do it super, super slow and it's really hard. But that's how you can build that muscle and saves you time because you don't have to do so many reps. And then another thing that he talked about in the book that really kind of, I think, gave the book, what would you call it? Like it got the buzz going because people were like, oh, did you read that part of the book? He talks about how to give a woman an orgasm, and not just any orgasm, but like a really long extended orgasm, even up to like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, even up to like 10 minutes long. And it's just like this long, awesome, intense orgasm. And so you definitely have to check that part out of the book, whether you're a woman or a man. Now, if you're a man, take some time and read that section because a lot of men just do not know anything about orgasms or how to give orgasms to women. They just are kind of lost with that and they're not patient enough and they don't really understand how women's body works and where the trigger points are and that kind of thing. So read that part and take notes and try it out on your woman. I'm sure she will love you for it. And then if you're a woman, it's really great to just kind of learn about our body from the book as well, from the anatomy side and just a couple different techniques to try out. So Tim Ferriss spent some time on that part of the book and I think he had fun learning about that and practicing it. And I just really admired his determination and his openness to try that. And then also just the patience that's involved because, when you're doing that type of orgasm to a woman, you're not getting pleasure, like physical pleasure. You're actually working to create that orgasm, but I think it is pleasurable as far as just seeing someone have pleasure. So that's where, you can get the pleasure from that. But really it's just like work to, give this woman an orgasm. So anyways, I highly recommend that part of the book. And there's another little tidbit in there. He talks about that you can get MRIs done in other countries, and a lot of times it's a lot cheaper. And so he recommended, having those MRIs done so that you know what's going on internally in your body, and then take those records with you if you can get those records from the hospital. So that way you can bring those records, back to the States or to another doctor that you might see, and you can have those. Plus, if you start doing some of these treatments like the prolotherapy or something like that, you can go and have another MRI done and then compare your previous to your current, so you can watch the transformation of your body. And then another thing he talked about was muscle activation technique, which I was intrigued by it, and I thought, well, let's go ahead and give this a try too. So I found a lady in Denver that did muscle activation technique, and I went to her a few times and was working on my shoulders, because when I would put both my shoulders up in the air, one of my shoulders would not, one of my arms couldn't go as back as far. So I figured there must be some sort of injury in there or something that's causing that to not be able to go as far back. So I had her do some muscle activation technique to help me with that. And there was a slight improvement, but it wasn't long lasting, and it didn't really seem like it had an amazing instant result like what Tim Ferriss had for his injury. He went to this one guy, and this guy did this muscle activation technique on him, and it just cured him like instantly. And he said it was like really painful, and then it was like release, and then he was like, he had flexibility again and didn't have any problem. So I didn't get that result, but I didn't go to the same guy as him. So maybe my lady either didn't know what she was doing, or maybe my injury wasn't really designed for that, the muscle activation technique. But anyways, that was something I had not heard of before. So, and if you do read this book, there's probably a lot of things in there that you may not be familiar with, because Tim's so explorative, and he's always looking at different things. And so I think he brings some light on a lot of things that we don't hear about in the mainstream. So I highly recommend it. I do want to share my screen with you and just go to Amazon and show you where you can find this. Let's see. I'm sure you can find it on other parts of, let's see, for our body. Tim Ferriss. All right, so there it is. And it's a really thick book. And I actually got it from the library when I read it. And so, that's one way you can do it, but you can also read it here. And it looks like he has a lot of good reviews. Yeah, 67%, 5-star reviews. So people really like this book. Lost 40 pounds in a year without doing a lick of exercise, just following some of Tim's advice, entirely changing my eating habits. So he does talk about the nutrition a lot, and that's one thing that I didn't really pull from that much, but he does spend quite a bit of time on nutrition. I remember one thing he talked about was for men, when they eat a steak, it kind of like increases the libido. So so that was kind of interesting. I hadn't heard of that before. Don't read this book if you're not willing to open your mind and entertain the possibilities within your control. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. Awesome, mind bending. So yeah, so I guess I'm kind of open-minded, so I was open to some of his ideas. Book is full of great ideas about how to change your body and mind. Ferriss is great with breaking down science without going overboard. Yeah, it is kind of like a sciencey kind of book. So you'll find that. Now a lot of people obviously had, 1 star. They didn't really like it, but I really liked it, and I would recommend it. So that's just that was my take on it. So check it out and let me know how it goes. If you learn anything from it, or if you enjoy it, or anything like that, just come back and leave a comment, or maybe you've already read it. You can leave your comments about what you thought. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.